This is Daria Tenser with CNTV, and today we're in Massachusetts introducing the adventures of Harold from the Hood. His social skills building series helps teach children valuable social interactive skills to cultivate healthy and unbiased connections with others. I am joined here with the educator, mentor, counselor, award winning author, Jim Price. Thanks so much for joining us here today.
Thank you for having me, Gary. It's such a pleasure and a blessing to be able to, share the story and share the books. And I mean, it's just a blessing, man. I appreciate it so much, Gary.
I'm looking forward to it. I'm going to start off a little bit about yourself. I mean, you basically earned an associate's degree in liberal arts from the Springfield Technical Community College as you made the National Dean's List publication. You have a bachelor's degree in psychology from Western New England University, and you have earned a master's degree in rehabilitation counseling from Springfield College. Right now, you are currently a candidate for a doctorate of education at American International College. So let's start off first of all. Share with me how this passion basically for teaching others through writing began for you.
So, I mean, I've always been kind of the helping kind of person who always was the family or the friend who always would listen to other people's problems and stuff like that. People would come to me and feel like comfortable with me to be able to talk about problems. So that's where it really began. And then as I got older and stuff, I decided, hey, I might as well use that talent to help others. So then that's how I got into kind of doing the counseling thing. I started off actually as doing adult programming with counseling, psychotherapy, counseling with adults. And that's where kind of started from. I was doing diagnosis and all those kind of things, and that prepared me for the next part of my journey. So then after I finished that, that's when I got into the school sector. I started in the private sector first, and then I moved toward the public sector and things like that. But a lot of that materialized in that way. And it all came from, my childhood experiences with being able to communicate and connect with others in a genuine way and, things of that nature. And I actually did finish my doctorate too. I finished my doctorate this past May. So I was very happy about that as well, to have that off my plate and be able to focus on a lot of other projects and things too.
That is excellent. I mean, so you're teaching adults, but you realize to change the world, we got to focus on our youth. It all starts with the children. It is a well-known fact. Social interaction is crucial for child development. Why are stories a great way to introduce our children to the world and people around them?
So, I mean, it's so important because when you talk about engaging with literature, put some platform about where you can engage. It can become a family engagement kind of thing too. And within the books, you have kids that are sharing their imagination, using their imagination while they're reading books and growing and nurturing their skills, especially when we talk about social skills, which are basically the platform for how we think, feel, and express our feelings toward others, and also how we react and respond to social interactions we have with others. So having to be able to embed those social stories into books in that way and make it more of a family dynamic thing where families and communities are coming together and learning together. And it also is educational in that way. I think in that sense, the whole package of that really resonates with a lot of families and communities. And, and as an educator too, just being able to understand, the impact that those things can have. And because as a counselor, I see those things day in and day out of what the students go through as a middle school counselor. So a lot of that resonates in that way.
Speaking of impact, I mean, these are learned skills that will be utilized over a lifetime, really. What age are your books written for, would you say?
It's for pre-K through fifth grade. And I think in that way, you have the essence because, that's the stage of development where kids are really learning about themselves and exploring themselves and understanding the world in a way where their social interactions are focused on how they perceive the world and things. So that's a very important stage of development time for kids to be able to nurture those social skills and learn the appropriateness of being able to interact with others socially and learn those social cues and recognize facial recognition of how others are feeling and how their actions and how their words can impact others as well. So I think, a lot of that entails a lot of that. And that's kind of like part of my focus in terms of those books, the books and stuff like that, in terms of, having the kids learn through literature. I always say children learning through literacy. That's kind of like one of my slogans too.
Children learning through literacy. I like that. I mean, your books look to explore accepting others' differences through the lenses of diversity and inclusion. Where did this idea come from for you to write on this topic?
So, I mean, Springfield, Mass is a very diverse population. And I know when I was going to school and middle school, high school, and everything, it was a very diverse population, which was very good. I think it's always good to nurture that kind of environment where you're able to connect with others culturally in that way. And so, being in that environment and growing up in that environment and seeing the things I've seen in terms of how you learn about different cultures and experience different cultures from other people are different from yourself. I thought it was important to include that as a part of this dynamic of my social skills series, children's book series, to be able to have that be a part of that message, a part of that understanding, that everybody is we're all here on earth and stuff like that, and we all have our own purposes, and we sometimes people find their purposes later in life or whatever, but everybody has a purpose, and everybody's culture should be respected. Everybody's cultural values and norms should be respected, and in that way, that's where I kind of focus a lot of my attention to as well with my social skill building series.
Interesting. Speaking of the actual physical area that influenced you, A Trip to the Park is the first of your series of children's books. What is this book about, and why was the park a good setting for you to start off with?
So yeah, as a kid, I used to play basketball too. So it's like, in our neighborhood before they actually had the basketball courts that were built, we didn't have basketball courts in our neighborhood. So we had actually got milk crate cartons. Those, and we would cut out the bottom of the milk crate and put it on a post or something, and that's how we played basketball until they actually came in the neighborhood and made actual courts for us to play. And so, we always had that element of being outside, and so that kind of resonates with that trip to the park element. And, we were always outside playing kick soccer or wiffle baseball or something like that. We were always active outside, maybe playing football, whatever. But that outside activity growing up, I think that's something that kind of dynamic that's lost in today's society where the kids are not really outside as much as they used to. Everything video games and stuff like that. So I really want to encourage that idea of, getting back to the roots of being outside, exercise, things of that nature, interacting, social interaction, and things of that nature. So trip to the park kind of plays in that element of where I came up as a kid. Once they built the basketball course, that's where I was always at the park. You know what I mean? And even with the character itself, the character's design itself is kind of hinging on a little aspects of myself too, in terms of like the glasses, the fade, the high top fade that you see. That's what I had in high school growing up. I would never have anybody see the pictures of any of that. But, like those are the elements that kind of created my idea where I want to go in terms of the book series by the time I got to that point in my life.
Yep, fantastic. Many lessons I think I learned at a park myself, so I definitely would agree with you. What will some of these young readers learn in Harold's Trip to the Park? What are they going to learn in that first book, would you say?
So, I mean, that first book definitely is about how sometimes people will look at us different and want to interact with us differently based on, how we are, what we are, and how we are, and things like that. Almost like prejudgment in a sense. So, with the trip to the park, that was the element that I want to tap into. Here goes the rigors of trying to find a friend to play with at the park because he's a purple snail. Nobody really wants to play with him. Everybody turns him down because he's seen as different. And I think that's a message that resonates, especially in today's time where there's so much things going on in our country and stuff. So the trip to the park was primarily, about tapping into that aspect of things where, he's seen as being different. And of course, working through how he felt about that. And I use that when I do read alouds and stuff to use as social lessons with kids when I do read alouds in different schools to go over how that made Harold feel. How did that make Harold feel when he was dealing with those things, going through those emotions of being turned down just because he's different? Of course, at the end of the story, he gets to find a friend and stuff like that and play with it. And it brought him joy. It brought him happiness, to know that, okay, cool, I may be different from you, but we can still play together and have fun. There's a lot of things we have in common. And I think that's a theme of that book that I particularly want to make sure I pressed upon in that edition of the book. And that's, part of the book series.
Speaking of being different, I mean, we are taught opposites attract. What is the message in your second book? Friends like different things.
Yeah, so friends like different things. It was kind of like I would do like lunch duty, recess time, and stuff like that. And you see the kids outside, they're running around playing tag, doing whatever they're doing, hopscotch, whatever, four square, all that stuff, basketball. And then you see sometime some kids are competitive than others, and so there would be little maybe disagreements and stuff in those environments and stuff like that amongst the kids. So when I made friends like different things, I was thinking about the idea of how kids like different activities. Some kids might like basketball, some kids might like skateboarding, or whatever the activity is. It's good to try to embrace those activities and share those activities and understand, hey, you can use those activities to connect to others, make genuine connections to others, and learn that you might have things in common with other people. So that's kind of like the premise of friends like different things, getting to know each other, getting to know other people, being okay with exploring different activities that you probably wouldn't naturally normally explore. So that's kind of the elements of what the making of that book two in the series was about.
I mean, you basically are teaching at a young age what makes everyone unique and special in their own ways is really the common thread that I'm really seeing through all your books. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely. I think I try to tie that into everything. I like to say, have experience like that, reading literature be a teachable moment. You can learn lessons in those moments, teachable moments where you're reading the book, maybe family members reading to their kid and they're going through the stories and stuff and they're picking out, okay, what is the social story? What is the book really about? What is the meaning of the book? And what do you take from the book? What are you learning from the books that are being presented and read aloud and stuff like that? So I think that a lot of that coincides with my purpose too of trying to inspire youth to be the best that they can be, understanding that they are special in their own way. Sometimes you need kids need support. Sometimes a lot of kids feel like they're not heard as well. So I think a lot of that those elements all kind of roll together with what my whole series is about. And I just been fortunate and blessed to be able to have the platform to be able to bring it to the world and share these stories and have it be where families, communities engage together and have talks and dialogue around differences of others and cultural differences or whatever the case may be, but teaching in a way that's lighthearted and not just like overbearing and things of that nature.
Speaking of families and communities engaging together, I mean, I tell my kids all the time how we communicate with others matters. I mean, learning to advocate for themselves and verbally express to others their needs or concerns is what is taught in fun time, lunchtime. So, touch on that book for us.
Yeah, that was a fun book to make because, like I just finished talking about the recess time and stuff like that. So it was kind of hinging on that, like fun time, lunchtime, taking initiative, advocating for yourself. In the book, in the story, in that story, he likes French fries and he wants to, you know, have hot sauce for his French fries and stuff like that. But that's his personal preference. Another kid might be like, oh, that's not good. But everybody has their own likes and dislikes. It's about advocating for yourself. He would advocate, hey, do you have this or what I like for my fries? So he's advocating for himself, sharing dialogue, social interaction with a peer while he's having lunch, and they're talking about different things that they like and kind of relate to and things like that. And of course, going to the playground and having that kind of fun where they're having the able to use those social skills that they are learning in a real setting, in a real life setting, being able to utilize those social skills. That's what usually happens a lot. The kids learn social skills, but then it's in the moment when they're they have to face those moments that can be where, we try and hope that they hold on to what's being learned and what they have been taught with social skills.
Interesting. I mean, let's face it, as adults or children, we all experience frustration. In book four, Harold feels frustrated, but they all come together to find a fun solution. Can conflict resolution be taught in our youth? And what age would you say it's best to start doing that?
I mean, that is something that, even adults deal with frustration and anger. You know what I mean? That's one of the things that even adults deal with. So, being able to understand the social skills and understand being able to learn those skills, those de-escalation techniques and things like that are critical at a very young age. I think as sooner you can start, the better, because then, as you understand, when you do something, you practice something, it becomes habit. So, if you're learning de-escalation techniques when you're angry and frustrated, or you're learning to problem solve with others when you're having problems, and being able to listen and hear just not your own perspective, but other perspectives, and understand how your feelings and emotions are valid and how your actions are impacted and influence others, and I think that is where the gist of that comes from in terms of dealing with frustration and anger, working together to solve a problem solving together, de-escalation techniques, that's in there. A lot of social skills that are important for them to navigate those avenues when frustration and anger does arise. And I think that's definitely something that needs to definitely be addressed as a young of age as possible, because as you get older, like I say, you practice something and you get to know it, it becomes habit. And, when you practice those social skills like that, you put yourself in a position where you can have positive social interactions with others and be able to self-regulate in terms of your anger and frustration as a child.
Yeah, absolutely. Not only great for our kids, but quite honestly, I think a lot of adults could pick up a book and learn quite a bit from themselves. Jim, your vision to teach, I mean, it goes beyond the pages of a book. Why was animation important for you to add what you offer?
Thought it was important. I was just tremendously blessed. I said, okay, I have a book series here, and I definitely wanted to expand on the brand, the Harold from the Hood brand, in a way that is dynamic and fresh, refreshing, and things of that nature. So it kind of had me dive into the idea of wanting to do like animation, cartoon animated work and projects and stuff like that. And I was just so blessed to be able to connect with folks that could help me push that vision of wanting to expand in terms of having adaptation, cartoon adaptations of the book, like the first book, The Trip to the Park. I was blessed to be able to have that, adaptation of that book, a cartoon adaptation. And it's just interesting to me when you look at the book and then I look at the book and then I look at the cartoon that's attached to our adaptation. It's just something how animation can gravitate and change the dynamics of a lot of things in terms of the audience and what they're doing and how they perceive the whole thing. And I think it brings it to a broader audience too when you have like a animation, something like that, adaptation. I'm currently working on other adaptations of the other books as well, and working on put together some what we call mini shorts, which will be like mini clips of Harold from the Hood in animated form, just to kind of have something different and keep the brand going. But I mean, I love the idea of coming up with ideas for cartoon animated clips and stuff like that. It's very fun. I never understood or knew anything about that, but I always learn as I go along. So I've learned so much, and I'm just so happy that I'm able to even gravitate into that area, that domain of film and stuff like that, and animation.
I'm a firm believer in that. I grew up myself learning many lessons from cartoons like Fat Albert, all these shows that were back in the day that I miss today. Jim, your books and activity tools are perfect for parents, educators, and caregivers. I mean, this is more than just entertainment. It's a valuable resource for teaching kids how to communicate, understand emotions, and develop kindness and respect for others. Is this rewarding work for you?
Absolutely. I mean, I had just recently got the activity book, the educational activity book that just released not too long ago. The pre-orders now, but it'll be released officially on the 28th. But the activity book is filled with activities that are has educational content to it, where it's just not just puzzles and mazes and whatnot and things of that nature, but it also makes sure I incorporated educational content for educational growth for the kids pre-K through fifth grade. So I mean, it's inspiring work to be able to branch out and do all these wonderful different projects and everything, but it all stems back to my purpose of inspiring youth worldwide to be the best that they can be and understand that they are loved and they are special and they have a destiny, they have a purpose, but that's a part of everything that, I think I just been so blessed to have, fortunate to have the platform being that has opened up the avenue to be able to, do so many different things and meet so many wonderful people from so many different places across the country and across the other continents and stuff like that. So, I mean, it's definitely inspiring work, and it's definitely part of my purpose, and I stand firm with that of, wanting to inspire change in a positive way, because, I mean, that's, the world needs that.
Yep, absolutely. I mean, Jim, you're the kind of guy that never stops. I know you're just going to expand this brand out incredibly. I'm sure we'll probably even have you on the show again. Viewers, let's take a look at the bottom of the screen right there. What you're going to see is his website. On the website, you can see all the books from Harold and the Hood book series. I mean, check out the great reviews right there online. Even watch the great animation you can share with your children that go really hand in hand with the books as well. We're talking about from coloring books to activity books to podcasts. There is absolutely something for everyone. Once again, that is The Adventures of Harold from the Hood by Jim Price. This is Gary Atensu with CNTV. And if you don't know, Now you know.